Ooh. Alt tab, did you say, right?
Alt tab, yeah.
There we go. Right, okay. So today we're going to talk about variable assignment. I'm sure you've started doing that, whether in your CodeFlix or training. I should have hidden it, but yeah. What are the 3 ways to assign variables in JavaScript? Or the 3 keywords you can use in JavaScript to assign variables? Yeah, so let, var, and const. Okay, so just for a bit of background, do you know which one was first created? Yeah, var, okay. And then in 2015, let and const were introduced when ES6 was created. You all right there, Jack? Yeah. Okay. Cool. So we're going to talk about why let and const were introduced in JavaScript and what are the issues with var, and also a bit about the differences between the 3 of them. Yeah. So I've just written a function here for you. So it's a for loop. Before I continue, does everyone know what this code would do? Is everyone familiar with for loop? Yeah?
This will loop until like the number reaches less than 5.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So you first initialize I equal to 0, and then as long as I is less than 5, then you increment I by 1, yeah? Every single time. Okay, so I've got a function here, and I've assigned my variable I with let, okay? So I'm just gonna print it out in the console, and sorry, I just want to show you what we got in the console, if I can make it bigger. There we go. Okay, so we got 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? That's our loop. Okay, what would happen if I print this console log outside of the for block with my let variable?
It won't work because there's a bit of straight.
Okay, yeah, okay, so let's just try it. So yeah, indeed we get an error message because our variable with let, our variable I cannot be accessed outside of this block of code, right? But let's see what happens with var, yeah? So what do we think will happen with var?
It will work.
It will work, yeah.
So
do we know what?
basically, I think with var, so the local and global scope thing doesn't work with var, so var can still access the console outside of the local scope.
Okay, yeah. So let's just see what is printed out in the console. So indeed, we get all of our we get 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah. So it's terminating the loop, and that's because with var you can access it outside of your block of code here. So var is limited or defined within the function, not the block of code. Does that make sense? Yes? No? Yeah. Okay, so just to recap, we've got var, which is function scoped. Okay, and we've got let and const, which were introduced in 2015, and which are what is the scope of let and const?
Not.
Block, yeah. block scope. You guys could do that workshop by yourself, actually.
So what's a block? Do we understand what a block is in this section of code?
Where the brackets, the curly brackets, the start of the curly bracket and end of the curly bracket.
Which curly brackets?
Yeah.
Because there's quite a few curly brackets. Yeah, that's right. So here our block of code is this one. Yeah. Our for loop. So what if we add another layer, another block? Let's say this. And I'm gonna say var mission completed. I'm gonna get rid of that one. What do we think will happen here?
It will look completed.
Yep. Yeah, so you have in your console now you have completed. What about if we've got let now? Will it work that way? Will we get anything in the console?
No, it's not. It's a block which is separated from the console.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we get an error message, okay? So mission is not defined. So you cannot access your variable outside of your block here with let, but you can with var. Because the scope of var is not limited to the block, but to the function. Yeah, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Any questions so far, guys, or are we good?
How did the other one get to completed? Sorry, can you explain that again?
With
First when it was var,
var?
we console log, and then I thought it was going to kick. It was, I mean, when we console log it was completed, that was shown. I mean, 1, 2, 3, completed.
Well,
Yeah, so the completed here, as in,
yeah, so with the var function,
oh, okay, mission equals 1, okay.
yeah, so you can access your variable mission
Yeah,
outside of that block.
okay. I get it.
Yeah, because it's not limited to your block of code. It's limited to your function here.
Okay.
Yeah.
I get it.
Is that clearer now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Did you say it's hoisted, right? Is that what you said? Or?
No.
No. I thought it was something back to the top. Move to the top? Or
No, just that block at the top.
oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah, sure.
All good. Cool. So now we're gonna talk about what happens if var is defined outside of a function. And before I do that, does anybody know the name of the global JavaScript object in your browser?
The name.
Yeah, the name. Yeah, but
Okay, that's the
in your
name,
in
yeah.
your browser, what do you know what it's called?
Yeah.
Window. Yeah,
Window,
exactly. Yeah. So here, if you type window straight into your console, you see you have a bunch of properties and methods that you can use, that you can access.
And we can even see our X-Men function, right? That's been assigned to the window object.
Yeah,
We've
that's
created
right.
it.
So I'm coming to that.
Yeah, sorry, I'm jumping ahead.
So what happens, I'm just gonna delete that for now. Okay. So what happens if we have a var outside of a function like that? Okay, so I'm just gonna just gonna clear the console for now so we can see what happens. Yep. Okay, so I'm printing it in the console, and let's see now what it does if I type window dot xmen member. Wow, yeah, I got the value here. So what it does when you use var outside of a function is that it attaches itself to the window object. Now, do we think it's a good thing or a bad thing? Would it be standard practice to do that?
I think I thought the window was standard actually. So regardless, the window always actually, I mean, the browser always has that window object as a default.
So the browser.
Yes, so you only have one instance of the window object. So that's why is that good that your variable attaches itself to your window object or not? No. Okay, yeah, it's not good. Because then you're polluting your window object basically, and it can cause a lot of issues with your software, right? Or even if you say you're using a third-party library, and in that library you have a variable which has the same name of the variable you're using in your program, then your variable will override the third-party library variable. So then it causes, like, you will need to debug everything, and it's just not fun. Does that make sense what I'm saying? Yeah? Cool.
Performance hit as well. So any variables that you declare globally and attach to the window object, they're never going to get garbage collected because the program thinks, oh, I probably need this variable. You've attached it to the window object, so it will never clear it away.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so if you do that for lots and lots of variables, your program can run a lot slower.
So, what about with let? Don't judge me for the variable that I'm using, because if you're all here in this course, then you're as much of a geek as I am. Yeah, so I'm just going to print that in the console, just so we see. Yeah.
I've seen them trying to do it when they think I'm not looking. I hit the plan.
Right, okay, so it prints out in the console, but do we think it's gonna, with let, do you think the variable will attach itself to the window object?
I don't think so. Because it's blocked. Yes.
Right. Yeah, correct. So if I try to type window.power, it's not there, right? So that's essentially why in 2015 they introduced let. Yeah? Are we all good? Or any questions? Anything that doesn't make sense? No? Alright. Cool.
How
Yep.
many variables you can attach to the window?
To window object?
Yeah.
Well,
As many as you create.
yeah, I guess as many as you want, but then as Gray pointed out, you know, it can cause a lot of issues in your software, and also performance-wise, it's going to slow down your program basically. Yeah. Cool. Right. Okay. Let's now talk about const and what const does. Okay. So, do we know the difference between let and const?
Yeah, const is going to be changed.
Const is going to be changed or not going to?
It's fixed, you can't change it.
Okay, you can't change
You
what?
can change the value of a const.
That's, yeah.
Variable, whereas the let is you
That's
can
right.
always, change
Yeah.
the value.
So const essentially doesn't allow you reassignment. Yeah. So for example, if you try it with var, let's say I want to change the value of Avengers to, I don't know, Black Widow, whatever. Yeah? Is it going to work? Yeah. Hopefully. Oh, yeah, I need to console log it. Okay, it works. Is it going to work with let?
Yes.
Yeah. It works. And with const, what was that? Yeah, we're probably gonna get an error message. Yeah, that's right. So assignment to constant variable. So it doesn't allow us to reassign my const variable. Yeah. However, what type of data is my value here? It's a string. Yeah. So what sort of data, well, what sort of category of data type is it? Do we know? Yeah, but it's part of a bigger family of data type. Do we know?
We haven't mentioned it yet, to be fair. But
Yeah.
that's why we're going to mention it now.
Yeah. So a string is a primitive data type. Do we know what other primitive data type we've got apart from string?
Another primitive one is, I think, Boolean.
Yes. Yep. So we've got string, booleans. What else? Number. Yeah.
Symbol.
Sorry.
Simple.
No.
Simple is actually.
Is it? Okay. Sorry. 1 point for you on the board.
There you go, you can keep the points back that way.
What else? We're missing 2, I think.
Char's just a string, right?
Yep.
There's no distinction in JavaScript, no languages yet.
Null. Yes. Null.
Undefined.
Yes. Undefined. What do we think of not a number?
Not
Yeah.
any.
No is one of that.
It's there.
I mean, not a number is a tricky one.
Probably should be a primitive.
So yeah, if you type of not a number, you get a number. It's one of those mind-blowing JavaScript thing. So it would come under number. Yeah, I know, it's one of those what moments that you have when you're coding. But yeah, right, I'm just gonna clear the console again. What about, so with going back to my const, what about if we're dealing with more complex data type like object or array? Say I'm gonna make this an array, yeah? So we already know that we can't, that const doesn't allow reassignment, so we can't reassign the value of my variable here, ligvasint. But what can we do if we have an array instead of just a string? Okay. Do you know any methods to mutate a string? An array, sorry, to change the content of an array? Push, yeah, okay. So we can try that. Let's see what happens if we use push. Sorry, actually, I can get rid of that one. What do we think is going to happen now? You think it's not going to work?
I think it shouldn't work still.
Okay.
Let's try it. I don't know. I'm just saying because the rule constant still applies. That's what I think. Maybe
You're pushing it now.
Right, okay. Let's any
The most technical reason I've ever heard it.
any other thoughts? You think it will work, Kelly? Okay. Shall I run it? Okay. So yeah, it's added it to the end of my array, right? Which is what push does. So you didn't reassign the value of your variable as such, but you have changed the content of your array. Okay, yes, so your value is still an array, but you've changed the content inside of your array. Yeah?
You've changed or you've added to the contents.
Yeah, you've added to the content, but
so the lecture still remains, we've just added an additional name to it.
But say
We're pushing it.
because we're pushing it. Yeah, that's right. But say if I wanted to change, okay, right. Let's say I want. What was that?
Pop. No, pop is getting out and removing it.
Yeah.
Would pop work with const? Because that's actually removing a value,
It should work.
even though const.
Well, you want to try with pop then?
Yeah, I don't think it will be different with push, but
Well, let's see. Let's just say I've got an array of one element. Yeah. Let's say I want to change that element. Okay. So I'm accessing it using the accessor here 0. Yeah.
yeah,
What do you think is going to happen then?
white
I guess it's gonna change it.
canary. Change it to white canary.
Yeah. So it's gonna change the content. So
So that would be
just to answer your question, Ed, you can change the content of your array if you want to, as opposed to just add element or remove element from it. Yeah.
So using the index, that's the only way you can change something.
Yeah.
So initially I find that a little bit confusing, right? Because we've said const, we can't reassign things when we declare them with const. But it looks like we're using an assignment operator then. Yeah, the equal sign is our assignment operator in JavaScript. But what we're not reassigning is the variable. We're not reassigning the variable that we've created with const. We're reassigning the value inside the array. Subtle difference, but very, very important. Yeah. So const makes the variable unable to be reassigned, but it doesn't make the values inside a complex object unable to be reassigned. Does that make sense?
So does that, in terms of the reassignments of that, can that occur? Is that just only within an array, or can that,
So you can do it with objects as well, right? You could reassign parts of an object using different syntax, of course, but the only thing we can't reassign is that original variable, League of Assassins, yeah? We could not directly reassign that because it has been declared with const.
Okay, so that's the variable name on this here.
Yeah, it's the variable name, right? It's in blue, yeah? All our variable names are in blue in that snippet.
Mm-hmm.
So just to get it, so we can reassign the variable names, but we can change the values regardless of whether it's an array or
You can change the value only with, well, yeah, only if you're dealing with objects and arrays. Yeah, not if you're dealing with a string, a number, a boolean. Okay, any of the primitive data type that we've mentioned before. So because if you try to do it like, you know, like I did at the beginning, just like that, and say here you're dealing with a string, not an array anymore, it's not gonna work. Sorry, I'm just gonna clear the console again, but okay, this time you're getting assignment to, you know, you're getting the error message again. So it only works if you're dealing with complex data type, like objects or array, within which you can change the content. Yeah?
And the way you do that is by using if it's an array, you use the index.
Yeah, or all of the other, you know, array methods like push, pop, slice, whatever.
And for an object, how would that change in an object? So if you have a name Edward, Edward Charles, I want to change the name to Ray Charles. I want to change the Edward to Ray.
So you can use then all of the object methods that you know, right?
Is it safe to say that you can only change primitive values within a const variable?
Is it safe to?
Sorry.
You can't. Yeah, you can't. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. But you can with let. So whenever you're working with primitive data type, then it's better to work with. Yeah. Well, with let you will be able to change them, but if you don't want it to change, if you want it to be fixed, then it's safe to work with const, obviously. So it depends on what you want to do with that variable. If you know it's not going to change, and if you don't want it to change, and you're working with a string, a number, a boolean, then definitely use const. If you want to say to your colleagues, the other developers that you're working with, that, be careful, this variable is going to change, then use let, because you can reassign it whenever you want. Yeah? So, just to sum up, so var is a function scoped variable, okay? So you can access it outside of a block of code, such as a for loop or an if block, yes? But let and const are block scoped, so you cannot access those variables outside of your block. So in our case here, it was the if block or the for block, yes? Why shouldn't we use var? Because outside of a function anyway, because it attaches itself to the window object, so you pull it in your window object, and that's not good practice. Yes?
Okay, so that var thing, and people were using it for years. So that means all the while it was already attaching itself to Windows, and people were using it like
well,
that.
I mean, if you think about it, like var, let and const are still quite new. Actually, I think even with some of the browsers, let is not working very well. So they're still quite new, it only was, the concept of it was only introduced in 2015, and then in the past 4 years, obviously, you know, it's been developed, so now it's working better. But yeah. So it's
the
not that
var-
it was wrong. It's just, you know, obviously let and const are more modern.
So the var was always attached to a window, so the windows was always kind of blurred out, so you can't really see. It's
Yeah.
always windows dot whatever
Mm-hmm.
you actually.
Yeah, if you wanted to see it in your window object, you can, you know.
And not always though, because if you use var inside the functions or inside of nested functions, that's not going to get put on a window object.
Yeah, it's only outside of the function that it will.
Var is function scope,
Yeah.
not global scope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it does. You can access a global
Well,
scope.
if you define it on the highest level of your program, yes, it will get appended to the global object. Yeah. Whatever's surrounding it, the outer function.
So if you have to do that, then it's better to use let in that case, because a let variable will not attach itself to the window object.
Yeah.
So if you have to define a variable outside of a function, then definitely use let. Yeah. And then you will use const if you're dealing with strings, booleans, number, null, undefined, etc. And you know for sure that it will never change while you write your program. Yeah? Any other questions, or are we all clear? No? Yeah?
So you had an example right at the start with the mission,
Yeah.
and when you changed it to let, we didn't manage to log the mission. Yeah, we had no access to the mission variable because it wasn't defined in that scope. So my question is it actually good to use var then in certain cases, or should we not use it? That's a general question to the group, not just to Anais.
Sorry, I didn't get a question.
Right.
Let,
What, yeah, if you want to rephrase it?
no.
Okay, so in this example, it worked, yeah? We had access to mission because var was function scope, so therefore mission was defined in that function. Yeah, would you say far?
Yep.
Yeah. But when we use let, if you want to change that now, it'd be
Yeah.
pretty useful. If we use let or const or not, it doesn't matter up there, right? But just the mission. If we use let there and run that, yeah, mission's not defined. So I'm saying it looks like var is a solution to that problem. But should we use var in any cases in modern JavaScript? That is my question to you. What do you think? Even though it solves that problem, should we ever use it?
Yeah, because of the fact that var also comes with its own problems as well.
It depends on the scope. If you want to access the whole of the function.
Yeah, you don't use it in the same class, so it's not very short of class. You can find it probably in the constructor to use it for different functions. So we won't stick in that class.
You can still access it through
I would say no too, Kelly. Everyone so far has said no, but
It's bad practice.
yeah, I would generally advise that you do not use var in any of your modern code. Why? Kelly's touched on an important reason. Security. We might not fully understand what var is doing, and we've exposed variables that we wish to keep private, or at least partly private. And also, let's try and fix this problem then. If we use let, how do we make sure that we can access mission? Where would we have to declare mission? Should we make
In
sure
the
we
block.
can access
In the
it
block.
outside of the block?
in the function.
Yeah, let's just define it at the top of the function, right? Or at least initialize it. We don't even have to give it a value, we just have to initialize that variable.
Oops. Sorry.
Do you follow me in there? Do you mind doing that? But
Yeah.
not even, no, let's keep it in the function, right? We
Yeah.
still want to keep it
Okay.
inside of the extend function. So where would I put it, guys?
Just underneath the definition bit.
Underneath the
You can after function its name, after the bracket.
You're talking about assigning the variable, right? Not the console log.
I'm talking about creating the
Yeah, yeah.
variable mission.
Yeah, yeah.
But I want the console log left there because we want to access
Yeah.
it. I'd leave that line as well.
Just after the bracket.
Which one?
Before four.
Before for
Yeah,
here?
there.
Yeah, that's where I put it. Yeah, so best practice.
Let me.
This is what we used to have to do as well, right? Define any variables you're going to use inside your function at the top. It's clear there, right? It's readable. I know that in that function I've got access to a variable called mission. Yeah? I've also given it a value completed, but it's not completed at that stage, right? It's unknown. So I would just put it to null or undefined initially. Shorthand to do that is just do let mission semicolon.
That's it.
Initialize the variable, and JavaScript itself will give it a value of undefined. Now just comment out line 9 for me, Anais.
Mm-hmm.
What's the value of mission going to be now? Will it throw an error or undefined? Yeah, so it's a confusing word. It's got a value of undefined, but it is actually defined, yeah? It doesn't throw an error. Yeah, there's no reference error. So we have initialized this variable and it's been given a value of undefined. Then we can leave the rest of our function as it was, so you can uncomment line 9 now.
What if I want to display completed
Yeah,
5 times in the loop?
you want to play completed 5 times in the loop? Alright, we'll come to that, but so what's the problem that Anais has done now? So if we run it again, it's still undefined. Why is it undefined?
Because you created another mission inside.
Yeah, good spot on it. We created another variable called mission, which is block scope inside of our for loop. So how do we fix that problem?
We remove the let.
Remove the let. Fantastic. We want to reassign mission to the value that it needs.
Yeah, now it should.
And now
Display completed.
it's complete. So that's how we would avoid using var in that situation. And you might think, oh, I've had to write 2 lines there instead of 1 line. But under the hood, that is exactly what var is doing. It's declaring, or it's initializing your variable mission for you at the start of the function, and then it's reassigning it at some point.
I want to run completed within that for loop 5 times. How would I do that?
Okay, yeah.
Please.
Suggestions, or you don't know?
What was the question?
We want to print completed out 5 times is what Anais wants to do. I won't question his motives, but it's just what he wants to do.
I will remove that if true,
Yeah.
and then I would say I equals mission.
Hang on a moment, yeah.
Anyone helping? How would we print out? You want to print out mission or completed? What do you want to print out? Completed 5 times. Okay.
5 times.
Do you want to run it?
Still 1. How do we get 5 times?
We need to get the I
wouldn't it be
Click it 5 times. That's one option, Kathy. Yeah. Let's try and make the code do the work for us rather than wearing our fingers out. Yeah.
We wouldn't be used to get I.
So what do we have at the start? I think we were printing out I, the value of I, right? And we've printed it 0, 1, 2, 3, 4.
So 0 is
5 times.
0.
So instead we want to print out completed 5 times. That's the only difference.
So I got
I equals completed?
Where's our console.log at the moment?
Initially.
It's outside of the for loop. What happens if we put it inside of our for loop? It prints out.
I thought of that. Would that run the loop?
It's inside the loop, so that code will repeat as many times as you specified.
And how do
Okay, see the number 5 beside it?
Is that means anyway it's actually running completely 5 times, but we're not seeing it because console log job is just to show it to us.
it was outside the block.
Yeah, console log's just to show it to us, but anything in that block of code between line 7 and the closing curly brace on line 10 gets run as many times as your loop specifies.
So it's always run regardless.
Yeah, well, if you've got other conditions in there, if you've got some conditionals, maybe it won't, but there's no conditionals inside there, right? It's just a standard old for loop.
Thank you.
Yeah, make sense, Anais?
Yeah, it makes
Yeah,
sense.
thank you for the question. Any other questions, guys?
So we should never use bar,
Try to out the habit of using bar.
only let and const.
Only let and const now on JavaScript.
Okay.
We're all good? Yeah? Cool.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That was